the core competency parts, I feel like it's missing in the Indian ecosystem. Where the one interesting thing I found while I was doing my PhD, Taiwan, what happened is that most of people there, when you graduate, they come back to the university with a patent and they want to start something of their own. That differentiates something, I feel like that things is missing here. So most of my students really come up with similar idea. We want to do something like, help people to find, hotels, similar things. So the patent part, the research part was missing.
Every founder story has an origin point. Sometimes it is a problem, sometimes it is a classroom, and sometimes it is a professor who makes entrepreneurship feel possible. And that is exactly why today's conversation is special. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of School to Startup, brought to you by Tracxn, a private market intelligence platform that's been supporting the global university ecosystem for over 12 years. Through our university partnerships, we work with institutions driving innovation and entrepreneurship, and this series highlights the academic leaders making that happen. I'm Harish, your host today. We are joined by Dr. Athouba, Assistant Professor in Strategy and Entrepreneurship at IIM Bodh Gaya, who work sits at the intersection of innovation, entrepreneurship, and the role institutions play in shaping the innovators. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's start with your journey. How did you move from industry experience into academia and entrepreneurship research?
Actually, I never thought of getting into this academia before, but actually what happened is that after this, my MBA from IIT Kharagpur, I had the opportunity to join a startup in Malaysia from one of my alumni startup. There, I got to learn lots of things, how a startup works basically. So that is an exposure, give me an exposure and help give me a confidence that I can start something of my own. So what happened is after working for 2 years, I tried to start something of my own. Then I try to build up my small team and try to launch an applications. And finally, it doesn't work. So it collapsed in 7 to 8 months. And I was confused, what shall I do after that? So once you have this entrepreneurial bug, there is a confusion that you should go back to the industry or not. So there's a big confusion going on in my mind that what shall I do next? And I definitely don't want to go back into industry and work under someone. That is a big problem I'm having now. So I decided to go for academia. First thing is like the freedom it gives me. That is very important for me, even though you have to compromise with the salary thing. But academia gives us lots of freedom in terms of a course you teach, in terms of the schedule, the session you organize. So the flexibility part was there, which I decided that I should move towards academia instead of, going to industry again. So that was the turning point from industry to academia.
Interesting. You have worked closely on innovation system and entrepreneurship. In Indian context, where do you think the biggest gap still exists when it comes to turning ideas into real scalable ventures?
I really feel, with little exposure I have, I really feel what happens in most of business model we have, it's like, you already copied someone is doing from outside and you're trying to bring it here in Indian context and, try to run that contextualization. But one thing is there that most of them neglect this, the what do you call it? Research part. When you're just trying to do, like a food delivery thing, or you're trying to do another Zepto parts, similar model, but you are lacking the, how can I put it? Is this a way that research coming something from a high-tech research lab where you hold the patent and no one can copy it? I'm trying to say the core competency parts, I feel like it's missing in the Indian ecosystem, where the one interesting thing I found while I was doing my PhD, Taiwan, what happened is that most of people there, when you graduate, they come back to the university with a patent, and they want to start something of their own. That differentiates something, I feel like that things is missing here. So most of my students really come up with similar idea. We want to do something like, help people to find, hotels, similar thing. So the patent part, the research part was missing. Even though I find that most of the old IITs are doing that, from lab to market. The IIT Bombay, IIT Madras are some of the few which are doing really well. So that things is required. So how you convert what you found in lab to the market, that deep research, it's lacking here.
Very interesting. And in your view, what role should universities really play in shaping the entrepreneurship? Is it about teaching concepts, creating exposure, or building confidence, or something else?
Yeah, it's very interesting thing. It is important that universities play a very important role. What I mean to say is that they play an important role in the region where they are located. In fact, there is an expectation from policymaker and society that when a university is located in a particular region, they expect that university will help in a socio-economic development of the particular region. That's why people want, another IIT, another IIM in that particular state. That is expectation. And it is expectation from the society and the government, right? So it is very important that entrepreneurship educations or the university should have certain curriculum which teach students how, something on entrepreneurship. And sometimes what happens is that, truly speaking, we are still confused that whether entrepreneurship education really works or not. That is a bit confusion going on now, because it depends on the context. If I'm teaching entrepreneurship in IIM Bodh Gaya right now. So what happened, I found very few students interested in entrepreneurship, even though I teach entrepreneurship. So it can be many reasons, right? We cannot push it, but it's good. It's good. We should produce a job generator than a job creator than a job seeker. But the thing is that I could not sugarcoat entrepreneurship and push someone to a students who are extremely risk adverse, who is not comfortable with uncertainty. That is, I should never do that, because I don't know, it's a high chance to fail. Right. So the thing is that I find that here in this context, people usually come with a lot of educational loan, right? When you come to IIM, we have most of them have education loan, and before paying the education loan, it's not advisable. You come to another venture which is extremely risky. So it can be one thing. So what university can play here is that if you have a good incubation hubs where you can inculcate students from the beginning of first year, right, and keep on mentoring them. That's just what we can reduce the risk part, giving some experience. Another thing is that if we are able to give them something, like opportunity like a deferred placement. So suppose if this a team is really interested in entrepreneurship and they want to try, and they decide that, okay, the institution will give you an opportunity to defer your placement. You can work for 2 years in a startup. If it fails, you can come back here and take part in entrepreneurship, in a recruitment process, in the placement. So that kind of confidence is required if we really want to inculcate entrepreneurship. And it depends on university and the policy. I feel like some of the old IITs and IIMs are doing that. And this is very much required.
Amazing. Talking about your institute, IIM Bodh Gaya has been using Tracxn for different use cases.
Right.
So how's your experience with Tracxn been? And what kind of value have you seen it create for faculties and students?
Actually, what happens is I use in my class I use Tracxn usually in the case of scaling a venture and that part. So in the beginning part, the entrepreneurship part where I teach is like a customer discovery process. We do lots of hit and trial, and we try to find a validate. You identify an idea and try to validate that thing. So in that part, I don't use Tracxn. For Tracxn, I started using Tracxn as in the case of scaling of the venture. So at that part, I do have a limited experience in this case. And what I suggest to students that why don't you go and find the list of all the Series A, B companies who has raised funding from Series A, Series B, and try to talk with the founders. What is the experiences? And in that case, Tracxn play an important role because they have all the database given out there, and students have access to this portal. Then they come up with the list of the founders whom they can approach. And it was a good experience. And learning from student sides, they can approach multiple founders, and that is the real experience coming from their end. So it helped me, it complement my or supplement my, the gap I have. So that's why I use Tracxn on that for teaching. And for research, we also expect that we can approach, because in Tracxn we have a list of founders are given out there. We can go for some survey and that stuff, which I'm planning to do that now.
Perfect. And also, when you're teaching these young entrepreneurs, most of them focus on the idea first, right? So from your perspective, what do they most often underestimate when it comes to building something that really works?
And it's a very interesting question. They usually come with this is the idea I have, and I'm the first one. I'm the first one to have this idea. Most of them has a thought that, no one has done this. This is the first one. There's no competitor. And the instant I heard this, and okay, it's not going to work. Because if you are the first one, there's something is wrong with that. So they lack the proper competitor analysis in the very beginning, and we used to make sure that you do that. Even is there any substitute for that particular product we're trying to build? And if you are very confident that no one has done, and why no one has done till now? So this idea generation process is required. And another thing I found students try to do is like they try to do lots of things at one point of time. I can do that, this, that, and single platform where everything is available. And it really doesn't work in ideation stage, right? Because you have to validate each of them. So it doesn't work. They really got confused there itself because where they want to go. So that thing we try to, cut it out and try to focus on minimum viable product, the most important features which you are trying to do, and how you validate that. We might run a survey. You might run mock-up. You try to build a wireframe and try to show your friends, and you really think that these things will work or not. So that kind of things I encourage them and include in my sessions.
Amazing. And you might have told this multiple times, but for the students who are watching this today and who are also curious about entrepreneurship, but do not know where to begin, what would you encourage them to focus first?
I would suggest that you should not you should not spend too much time in a business plan, because unless you find a product market fit, these are all assumptions. You have all hypotheses which you have to validate. So you leave that business plan 20, 30 pages aside, and you just use this business model canvas, the 9 block, which I suggest them you just print multiple pages, and whatever comes to your mind that this is the idea I want to pursue, keep on writing them and validate. That is the first part. Job to be fixed. We should say you need to fix this. And if the entrepreneur, if the problem is coming from the student itself, is good because he knows the problem. Else you have to find a problem to be fixed, which has been faced by other people. So the first thing is identify the problems, and the problem should be big enough to pursue. So problem identification process takes some time. So then you go with the evaluation purpose. It's big enough, the investors are available, then you can proceed after that. Before that, students spend lots of time, financial forecasts, this much revenue you're going to earn first year, second, third year. Since you don't understand, you're not very sure that the customer really like the product or not, but you start calculating all those things. So that is a big no from my side.
Amazing. I have one last question. I remember you telling that you use Tracxn in your daily classroom sessions. So just wanted to know, how is it being used in Elaborate, and how does it help making make learning more practical and connected to the real startup ecosystem?
This is because since I've just started using one of the course, the scaling of venture. I'm also trying to find new ways how I can incorporate this in the platform, the particular platform which Tracxn has. So what I'm trying to do is, like, I am also planning to include it in other courses like strategy, where I'm trying to find the competitive analysis of particular industry, where, because you have lots of even Tracxn has divided the data based on industry as well. So in that perspective, I'm also thinking to use in other courses as well. So it's an evolving process, where, because I'm not very I haven't gone through all the features Tracxn has, but I have just started using one of the course, and this is in scaling of ventures.
Perfect. No problem. We have a dedicated team who will help you out in identifying those things and help you out building the curriculum as well. So I'll ask my team to connect with you after this interview, and probably you can let us know how you want to shape up the curriculum.
Right.
Great. So this was a fantastic conversation on how universities can shape entrepreneurial thinking, and how access to real-world startup intelligence can make learning far more practical and relevant. Thank you very much for being part of this episode, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Horace. Take care.